Big warm welcome today to Mr. Phil Burt. Thanks for coming up here to join us today. We're going to be making two videos with you. One about indoor turbo training and one about bike fitting. The first one we're making is about indoor turbo training. Quick interjection to give you some details on the optics of this video. This isn't a sponsored video at all. Wahoo reached out to us and see if we'd be interested in interviewing Phil Burt about some of his research and bike fitting in general. I obviously jumped on as part of Wahoo paying for Phil Burt's time up here. We're obviously posting this video, but all of these devices, they're all just on loan, just making this video. There's no sponsorship. This is all going back to Wahoo. The only thing that we're keeping is these, because we use these in our turbo training as part of our fitness testing. Hope that makes it clear to you. Right, back to the interview. So I should probably explain to our audience, who might know your background in this more than mine, is that we used to run a turbo training studio down here, 12 turbo trainers, 2 classes of my sort of database, like 450 athletes, something like 10,000 workouts. So we've got a lot of experience with a lot of people, and you've got a lot of experience with some very fit and dedicated people. Hopefully the two minds are meeting today to present some ideas that you've been putting forward around matching a turbo trainer or indoor trainer to a bike fit and the right individual. So where we're coming from, we've always had something fairly static. We either had a fixed turbo trainer, and now we're starting to see things like this, like things that move and simulate cycling and go up and down and backwards and forwards and vibrate and all sorts. Why? Why should we have something like this?
It's a really good question, Paul. And you got all that real world experience, all those people that came through there. And that's where my experiences came from as well, was that during COVID, what we saw was that, of course, indoor cycling was already going up with the Alvin and the Swift, but then it just exploded. What I saw with my physio hats on, so I'm from foremost, was a lot of people all of a sudden saying when they converted from a lot of outdoor cycling, maybe complemented by some indoor cycling, all of a sudden it was all indoor. What we call the epidemiology in sort of medicine, in other words, that the nature and spread and cause of injuries really changed. So we saw a lot of people who were obviously very good cyclists, but all of a sudden we're picking up knee pain, saddle sore, back pains, all this, because of the switch to indoor fixed cycling. We've been looking at, I've got a lot of experience now over the last few years and understanding why that is, and we help people out, because bike fit is almost a secondary thing to that. It's almost in indoor training, the thing is a lot more fixed position. So if your turbo is completely static, it's not like when you're outdoors move around, obviously. That means often that you have to move around the bike, and that may or may not cause problems. That's only accentuated when you really get into doing something like when Swift's taking all your attention and you're doing a race. You don't have those natural breaks of just getting in our saddle and things like that. All of a sudden you change it to indoor. The challenge is changed, so people find different ways of doing that. You're absolutely right. So all of a sudden the handling isn't important, is it? And I'd have to look down the road. So I often find people who are often like, best one, time trialists, who have amazing positions for looking at the floor. You think about indoor cycling, it is different. And that's what I'm basically saying. My first book had no chapter on indoor cycling 12, 15 years ago now. Second book's got a whole chapter. It is here. And I wonder whether we've adapted yet to what the challenges are of indoor cycling. It presents different loading, different forces. Does an indoor position have to be in replicate an outdoor one? Depends on what your goals are. So a lot of people might be using like a kicker bike or static bike that's just for indoor training. What we call off-fit conditioners. They're not even cyclists sometimes, but they use cycling as a great fitness tool to do it.
And this just feels, when you're riding it, like every spin bike that you've ever ridden inside a spin class. It's probably even more static than your own bike on a turbo trainer, such as a Wahoo kicker or a Tax Neo or something. I mean, it doesn't move at all. It's completely rigid. Personally, I've kind of got used to this type of bike, and we've coached to sort of ride a pretty strong, stable position, strong core. I'm very happy on this type of a bike, but I appreciate it's not for everybody. There really isn't much movement you can get out of this at all. You can wrestle it and it really doesn't move. What I can do on this bike is actually do a little bit of tweaking on the move. So this feels like a little bit too close. I can just nudge this out and experiment with some positions myself easily enough. In terms of tweaking and refining your position, this is such an easy thing to do.
If you're not going out the weekend doing a race or time trial, why do you have to be in exactly the same position indoors as outdoors? Back end's virtually the same for me, because that's about power generation. But if you want to work your heart and lungs and tire your legs out, and look at a screen. Yeah, and people are messaging, aren't they? It's a whole different world. So it's almost like, is there a Swift or indoor positioner? Is that different to an outdoor one? I'd say it probably is for some people. And that comes back to my thing though about, I often try to describe the complicated thing in the middle of all this, as you would have known for yourself, is the human being. Infinitely variable. Some people so flexible, so brilliant, can adapt to anything, what I call macro absorbers. Then the micro adjustments, the people who, something's 2 mil out of the way, their training changing slightly, they're great down. We often have a phrase in elite sport, which I used to work in as a physio. I spent 80% of my time working at the 20% of the squat. Some people break down a lot, some people don't. In indoor training, I think, basically, compared to outdoor cycling, will find your weakness quicker.
So some of the research is up here behind you. You just written this massive document, loads of research in this.
Right.
And what we're here to talk about really is the finding the right indoor training solution for you. And you've done this matrix where if you are a micro adjuster, as you in your own way, or a macro absorber, how would you go about selecting an indoor training setup suitable for you? Could you perhaps just talk us?
Yeah, sure. So this is it's a combination of early research, we're going to do more, and then my insight and my experience. What I basically got about my matrix is if you've got a very narrow bike fit window, in other words, someone's got a very narrow way, everything has to be exactly as it is, otherwise I feel pain, discomfort, can't produce power, whatever. Other people, very wide bike fit window, could be almost anything. There's really annoying people who can jump on any car bike and still go across under it. I often say, being a micro adjuster actually helps you find optimal pretty well because you get a lot of feedback. But of course, it comes with it. So if you think about the bike fit window there and there, it's obvious that someone with a large bike fit window can probably jump on any turbo trainer and probably do a session and not pay a price for it.
So these things don't necessarily trouble me. I guess for me, a long time, I'd be thinking that things like this probably fitted into it's trying to simulate real world. It's like there's quite a lot of movement built into this. Now, right now, I'm trying to ride nice and stable like I would do on a bike, but if I exaggerate my movement, you can see how much movement there is. Most of it is forward and backwards, but there is also a fair bit of tilt as well. If I really try and go for it, like on a really big steep climb, and get out of the saddle, crank the gears up, you can really see how much you're moving around here. Now, I can either try and ride and keep everything still, or I can really just go bananas on the whole thing and let everything move around. I think this could be quite good at teaching you a bit of core stability and teaching you a better technique. I mean, it doesn't feel natural, but in terms of some positional relief, feels definitely right there. Should say one little feature with this is a big clip down here so you can lock it back into place again, and then it feels much more like a regular kicker. Quite like that functionality because I'm not entirely sure if I like that. What your research is actually telling us to perhaps maybe not a gimmick.
No, and I think, yes, they are starting to simulate this. So, for example, the Move one here, Wahoo's Move one that goes backwards and forwards and has a little bit of latches on. That's obviously more like outdoor cycling. What I see is more degrees of freedom. So all of a sudden, what you're adding in there is you've got more room in the system. There's more movement happening, so it's not as spit. If that's the case, someone with a narrow bike fit window, all of a sudden, it's almost opening their bike fit window and enabling them to sit on it longer, more comfortable, because it's actually giving them breaks and movement in the planes of movement that we have. That's the advantage of that. Combine that then with something like, for example, you've got the climb system here. That's nothing to do with the climb. But if you are on Swift and it does go up and down, it's literally changing all the angles that you're using, your back angle, so on and so forth. So I see in that as all of it, that's sharing out the loading across different muscles in different places. So it's not that it stops fatigue. What I think it does is it prevents positional fatigue. And then they end up in pain, discomfort, like say hip flexors, knees, saddle sore, things like that. And the other thing we will come to is that there's environmental consideration with this. Like, I'm a massive fan of people using a fan, but not to make yourself feel more comfortable. Because, but if you've got a fan at the front and the Wahoo did headwear one, is what that does is in indoor cycling, you haven't got the natural air movement over you. So often your chamois or your shorts get sodden wet, and wet pad against the skin is a big threat to getting saddle sores. Some people only get saddle sores when they do indoor training because of that. So if you can just mitigate that and take that away and that's some air, it'll dry off here.
Sure. So this particular one obviously simulates the gradient, and we've also got the forward, backwards movement. What this one doesn't do so well is the side to side.
It's got a little bit, it's a bit more than that very completely static end, bottom end of the range. But
then, Garen, we've got the sort of rollers, which are very famous in track cycling, which you've got some business in, and now Wahoo have got their own sort of roller. Where would you see the benefit of such a system?
It really struck me when we did these, you can see saddle pressure studies here. When you actually look at the roller, there's hardly any pressure there, and that really surprised me. And then noticing you've got the tyre and wheel is still attached to the bike. So for anyone who may suffer with saddle issues or saddle discomfort in indoor cycling, the roller is a real game changer because it really is taking away a lot of the threat of that for that. But people often get on there and go, well, this feels really comfortable. Where do you get these?
I do quite like a set of rollers. Problem is, if you're doing your long endurance rides, I don't really have the skills to spend hours and hours on them. I'm still at the phase where it takes me quite a lot of concentration, but I do like riding on them. Now this one's got a little bit of resistance, probably more so than a standard set of rollers, but the bike's pretty static. This is how much movement we've got, but it feels a whole lot more natural. Okay, I can't steer the handlebars. That's a little bit weird, but the rest of the bike feels incredibly natural. You're not going to get the climb feature, of course not, but as I flip through the gears, everything feels very normal. I think most of the pressure relief is actually coming from the tyre. The movement is much more subtle and much more natural.
And then you come to something like the kicker bike. What I love about this, I don't know about you, is this crank length. I'd rather call it the optimal crank length finding machine. People will often so if someone comes in and they have the ability to change crank length on their indoor training setup, as this does, I literally would say, don't believe him. I'm trying to change their crank length on the road bike for any myriad of reasons. We used to use it to achieve performance goals, yeah? But what I found out being in the real world, which is far more interesting, dealing with ordinary customers, is that crank length makes cycling more accessible and more comfortable for a whole load of reasons.
So from what I understand, just to sort of summarize some of your research, and we'll make sure this document is available for everyone to like look at and do a bit of stuff. If you are a mapper absorber, you can get on pretty much anything. Something like this works quite well, especially if you've got a few people in the family that want to use the same bike.
That's a great idea.
How we see this, because we have lots of users come down here, we just need to position it, get on it, do something. If you're going to use your own bike, and you do a lot of like zone 2, spend a lot of hours on it, and you need positional relief, the kicker climb, the kicker move combined, there's a lot to alleviate. And then if you have particular saddle soreness, then you've got the roller as well, which you probably your optimum.
And some people just like the roller, but just goes a little bit more natural because the whole bit. And so it's easy convenience with a roller. There's no taking the wheel off. It's like straight in. If you've got room for it, it's like, wow, bang, straight in there. But it is demonstrably less saddle pressure compared to some of the other ones.
So demonstrably less saddle pressure on the rollers than it is on a fixed. Interesting.
Just at the interface. But yeah, I think if you mitigate, the more degrees of freedom you got, the longer you can cycle. So if you struggle, say your threshold's 1 hour, and 1 hour, I'm getting clear, I'm going to, well, I want to get off the bike. I want to do 2 hours. That's where you think, hold on a minute, if I give myself more freedom and movement with the system, I will climb up and down or move or roller. You're probably going to get that threshold go up because your threshold for discomfort kicking in goes up. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does. It does actually make sense, and begs the question. I'm making you ask myself, how we do bike fitting down here at the moment? Because the reason I got this set up is because this is how we currently do bike fitting. We currently use this to try and make sure that people are in the ballpark. Is the frame that we're about to buy for you the right size? Are we going to be able to get your bike fit? Then we go ahead and order the frame.
Yep.
What we think are going to be the right stem lengths and everything else. And then before the customer takes it away, we have the bike prepared very much like this. And the steer is not cut. The stem might be generic. And they'll come for a final fit on this type of static turbo trainer. What you'll potentially say is that we might be better off doing a bike fit on the roller because you'd get a more real life experience.
Probably, yeah, because when it completely fits, they might feel things that they're not used to about if they don't ride a bike like all the time. All of a sudden, all the now, yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's a really good point. A lot of bike fitters now use the Wahoo roller because it just simulates. Although from what they find is that you get much more realistic picture of what's actually going out, rather than this all becoming really fizz. And of course, all that fitness, it feels very different to somebody who's not used to it.
I definitely find sometimes the first part of my bike fits, you got to use if yours is the same or completely different, is if you've never ridden a turbo trainer, you can tell it instantly because they assume quite a weird posture.
Yeah.
And I always have to turn like a video camera on them and say, is that really how you ride it?
Yeah.
The outdoor, and then sort of coach them into, where would your house position be if you're outside? Where would you be looking? Would you be looking at the rider in front of you, the car down the road? Can you sort of spend the first couple of minutes just trying to pretend that you're outdoors? Do you do something similar? Or?
Yeah, it is. You can tell straight away where somebody is not used to that. And then I always say everyone goes through the same process, but every bike fit's different. That makes sense. Do you know what I mean? It's different people. What's hilarious is someone comes in and I always think about bike fits a bit like being Sherlock Holmes or a bike detective, but you see all this wear here, and there, and then they immediately go to here, and I go, do you normally ride there? Because that wear and tear shows me that they go, no, it's much more comfortable here. It's almost the reach is wrong from whatever, that's it. But so, yeah, I think...
Looking for those witness marks. So I'm starting to give you some clues.
What the fascinating thing about this is why I'm so interested in bike fit. As busy for I came... when I came to cycling, I was like, hold on a minute, this is different for everybody. And it's because human beings are all different. The thing about cycling is wonderful sport, hardly any eccentric forces. What's the first oxymoron is most common cycling injury is a knee injury. What's the first thing anyone does after a knee operation? They don't go running, do they? They go on a static bike. It's just cycling's really good for it. If you get the setup right. So what I love doing is working out what is the problem. Is it you? Is it the bike? Is it a bit of both? How can we just answer help you? How can you adapt it?
And absolutely, we're going to come on to that in our part 2, where we talk about like how we approach bike fit, how you approach bike fit, and everything else. I'm just going to finish this video up with like one final question. This is like part 1 of your research, Jonathan, that your reflections on what you've observed so far, plus a little bit of research, was your saddle fishing. You think there's still more to come. Can you roughly, where's this taking your thought?
Regional cycling is here to stay now, right?
Big time.
This is what we're about, and we see there's world championships there, some of this, and with the advent of Swift and all the different platforms. I think what there was some stuff that came out kit that said it was indoor cycling. If we'd be really honest with ourselves, was it just? I think what we're going as any sport evolves, things. What we need to do is optimize the kit and the advice and help for people to understand it. So I think what we need to do is do some deeper research where we really understand how people feel. And that comes in 2 different ways. You can always look at objective data like saddle pressure and numbers and power and ad wheels per pound. But more importantly, and there's a lot of companies now that want to invest in this, it's perception, right? And we dismiss comfort. Comfort's often been, I talk about my 3 pillars of fit: power, aero, comfort, sustainability. Comfort's a bit of a dirty word. Comfortable or not. It means you're in the best position to do what you're going to do. It doesn't mean it's easy, but it is comfortable to do it. So say, I think what I'm pushing to find is that, and there are literally people who are experts in comforts and how we measure that. So, for example, your big turbo route, if you've got them afterwards and ask them really with smart brushes, the people come up, you have to begin to understand that for observation, what is more comfortable.
And it's a really good point, because I would put the comfort and outdoor lighting as part of bike handle. How does the bike actually handle? But indoor, it doesn't really matter. It's completely different bodies.
So come back to that question again. Does an indoor position have to be the same as that, or? Good point.
So as far as I've had it, you're taking this further yet. You've still got a lot more research to do. This is just open the door in your research. Yep. We're expecting to see more from this.
Definitely, if I get my way.
There we go. If you'd like to know more about this, please subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow Phil. Get those questions down below. I'm pretty sure you'll have to read the comments as well. Far away, just get involved. Tell us your experience. I guess that's going to help read your research as well. And yeah, stay tuned, because part 2. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thank you so much, Phil. We'll see you in part 2. Cheers.